Hello, and welcome to Conflict Analysis, Resolution, and Peace Studies lectures. Today we're continuing our series on narrative praxis by talking about circular questions. Circular questioning is also used in counseling and is very common in that field, but can be used in the conflict resolution field as well. For example, during a discussion or a mediation, instead of asking, "Sue, how do you feel about being here?" you can ask, "Monique, how do you think Sue feels about being here?" which takes the perspective and the idea of Sue's feelings back to Monique to reflect upon them and to try to verbalize them in her own way, which leads to a lot of reflection. Circular questions often promote a great deal of reflection since people are thinking about somebody else or about somebody else's situation in a different way. It's not asking them directly, which can feel like less of a confrontation and can provide some perspective and even some introspection on one's own issues. And in narrative praxis, we are definitely all about introducing complexity into everything that we do because narrative praxis is really trying to pull in that complexity and spread the situation out so that people can see all of the different factors that play into a situation so that their story becomes broader and their understanding becomes broader so they're not so polarized because they learn that there aren't two poles to a story. And it can also focus on relationships. This is very good for like mediation and aspects of conflict resolution where you need relationship building, and especially where you need relationships to continue to foster and grow. And it can be used for lots of different discussions for different impacts. It is important to note that depending on the practitioner and the people in the room, it can get a little heated because somebody might be like, "No, that's not me, you're completely wrong," and the situation can become tense as people's feelings run high. It's usually good to say, when you get to a 7 on a level of being upset, let me know, we can take a break. We can pause, get coffee, get water. You can step out. You're free to take a moment if you need to. But it can also help with a discussion, like if somebody says, "That's not me, you're wrong, this isn't how it is," then the practitioner can then say, "How did you think this person thought of this situation or of you before they said this? And what led you to think that?" Which is another circular question asking how you think somebody else thought of you. And then in turn, after you ask them about their perception and what led to it and what led to that idea, you can talk to the other person and ask them what led to their perception. And you can even ask, what is your perception of this person in this situation? And then you can look for lines of flight or areas of exception of, have there been any times that this has been different? Have there been any times that you thought this person felt differently or that you thought this person felt differently? And it can be a really good way to have those discussions and to have those discussions when you already have people in a reflective mood thinking about each other in a different way. And it can lead them to trying to think about when they felt the person might have felt another way, or the reasons why they've always felt that that person thought this way or felt this way or acted this way for a certain set of reasons. So it can really help get to the bottom of things in a different way, because even though it doesn't seem as direct, it digs up a lot of different ideas, because asking somebody directly, you get a certain type of answer and a certain type of perspective, which is sometimes very narrow, or it can explain a lot depending on the person and how reflective they are. Well, this invites people to reflect, no matter what type of person they are. And they might say, "I'm having a very hard time doing this," and they might explain, which would help the other person or other people in the situation understand more of where they're coming from and how they're thinking. And like I said, it's all about introducing complexity and getting that story out there and adding to it so that it doesn't stay this narrow, problematic thing. And there are also reflective questions, circular questions, that can take stock of, who's in the room and how are they feeling. So when you bring a group of people together, you can say, well, who was the most eager or insistent about coming here today? And then they can all talk about that and how they feel. And so they're reflecting on the other people and how they feel. And then you can also say, well, who is the most reluctant or who is the most concerned, so that you can get a feel about how the people perceive each other and how you might need to proceed, or you might need to look out for certain people being more sensitive or being more easily triggered by certain parts of the discussion, because you can take stock of, well, what makes you think that they feel that way, and you can learn more about the issue there. So especially if you're kind of short on pre-work, it's a really good way to take stock of some of the things in the room, some of the feelings, some of the existing issues, because especially when you're working cold with people, when they've invited you in and you haven't had a chance to talk to everybody, depending on the situation, this can be a way to get a good idea and to introduce what they want to accomplish or what their feelings are about it or their issues are about it. So it's very good to broaden your perspective on who you're working with as well. And this can also be another time where people might get very upset if emotions are running high. So remember to just let people have that space to take a step out and to be able to calm down, because it's not going to be as productive when people get past a 7, and it's going to be rough for other people in the mediation or the discussion, because when one person's emotions run high, it can impact everybody. And it's all about different perceptions. And so you're learning how these people are perceiving each other, and you are working with that and working to expand on how they perceive. And so circular questions do their best to broaden the way that people do that. Thank you, and see you next time.